Part 2. The hidden problem and its psychological or philosophical roots. You've been handed a story about depression. A story written in sterile clinics and pharmaceutical labs, bound by the spine of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It goes like this. Your brain is broken. Serotonin is low. Synapses misfire. Take a pill. Fix the machine. But what if the machine isn't broken? What if it's outraged? To understand why your depression refuses to die, you must first confront the lie at the heart of modernity. We've pathologized the soul's rebellion against a world that denies its existence. Carl Jung saw depression not as a disease, but as a loss of soul. When society reduces human beings to economic units, productivity metrics, LinkedIn profiles, optimized lifestyles, the soul retreats. It goes underground, and in that exile it wages war. Jung's shadow, that repressed reservoir of primal instincts and unlived lives, doesn't vanish when ignored. It festers. It erupts. Your depression might be its manifesto, a crumpled letter slipped under the door of your consciousness, demanding you read it aloud. But modernity hates shadows. It floods every corner with LED light, swears by positivity mantras, and pathologizes melancholy as dysthymia. Nietzsche saw this coming. Man would rather will nothingness than not will, he wrote. We'd rather cling to hollow goals, buying, achieving, performing, than face the abyss of meaninglessness. But the abyss isn't empty. It's full of everything we've been told to forget. Rage, grief, the unspoken no that could liberate us. Let's dissect the poison in our cultural bloodstream. 1. The Tyranny of Positivity. Every self-help book, influencer post, and corporate wellness seminar preaches the same gospel. Choose happiness. But as philosopher Alan Watts warned, the harder you try to be happy, the more miserable you become. Forcing optimism onto despair is like pouring bleach into an open wound. It sterilizes the surface, while necrosis spreads beneath. Ancient Greeks understood depression, melancholia, as sacred, a dark muse that connected mortals to truths too heavy for daylight. We've replaced that wisdom with toxic gratitude journals. 2. The cult of utility. Your value is measured by what you produce. Your Instagram feed? A highlight reel of consumable identity. Your hobbies? Marketable passion projects. Even rest is now self-care, a checkbox on the to-do list of optimal living. But as Arthur Schopenhauer observed, life swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom. We chase desire, achieve it, then collapse into ennui. Depression often strikes those who've succeeded at everything, except being human. 3. The death of ritual. Indigenous cultures from Siberia to the Amazon treated depression as a call to initiation. The sufferer would be sent into the wilderness, confronted by elders, or immersed in rites of passage. Modernity offers Zoloft and Zoom therapy. We've replaced soul-centric rituals with clinical protocols, severing despair from its ancient role. To transform, not to tranquilize. Now meet the architects of this crisis, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Huxley predicted a society pacified by pleasure, numbed by soma pills, where happiness is mandated and depth is treason. You scroll TikTok reels until 2 a.m. You binge Netflix to mute the inner voice asking, "Is this all there is?" Your depression isn't a glitch. It's the immune response to a civilization built on distraction. Jean-Paul Sartre's Bad Faith, Sartre, called it mauvaise foi, the act of lying to yourself to escape freedom's burden. You play the roles demanded of you. dutiful child, loyal employee, Instagram-ready partner. But each performance chips away at your authenticity until only a husk remains. Depression is the recoil of a soul suffocating under layers of pretense. Viktor Frankl's existential vacuum. After surviving Auschwitz, Frankl wrote that the greatest tragedy of modern life is not suffering, but meaninglessness. Depression thrives in this vacuum. When your job feels pointless, your relationships transactional, your spirituality reduced to mindfulness apps, the soul goes on hunger strike. No SSRI can force feed it purpose. Here's what they don't want you to know. Your depression is a relic of evolution, a biological alarm system older than civilization itself. Early humans didn't have the luxury of existential despair. If a hunter-gatherer collapsed under the weight of meaninglessness, they'd be eaten by wolves. So why did evolution preserve this trait? Because depression, at its core, is adaptation. It forces you to stop, reassess, and change course when your current path threatens survival. The executive working 80-hour weeks until her heart fails. The artist churning out soulless work for likes. Their depression isn't malfunction, it's Darwinian intervention. But evolution didn't account for capitalism. Your biology screams, "This life is killing you," while society shouts, "Hustle harder." You're trapped in what anthropologist David Graeber called bullshit jobs, roles so devoid of meaning that even those performing them struggle to justify their existence. Your depression mutates here, twisting from adaptive signal into chronic disease. It's not that you're weak. It's that you're trying to survive a system designed to exploit your humanity. Let's name the unnameable. Modern society pathologizes depression because it cannot afford your awakening. A population content with cheap thrills, shiny gadgets, viral trends, political circus is easy to control. But a person who's touched the void, who's felt the howling truth beneath the rat race, that person is dangerous. They might quit their job, burn their masks, start a revolution. This is why your depression terrifies the status quo. It's not a chemical imbalance. It's class consciousness of the soul. Yet the greatest violence is this. We've been taught to fear the very process that could heal us. In medieval times, mystics spoke of the dark night of the soul, a spiritual crisis preceding enlightenment. Modernity medicalizes it as major depressive disorder. We've swapped transcendence for Prozac. But what if your collapse is the prerequisite for your rebirth? Schopenhauer argued that true awakening comes only through suffering. A man can do what he wants, but not want what he wants. Your depression might be dragging you toward that brutal freedom, the realization that everything you've wanted was programmed into you. Now the trap tightens. The more you medicate away the symptoms, the louder the root cause screams. The more you think positive, the deeper the shadow grows. You're in a silent war between two visions of self, the one society manufactured and the one your soul demands. But this is only the second layer of the labyrinth. Beneath it lies an even darker truth, one about how your despair has been weaponized, how it shapes everything from your relationships to global politics, and why escaping it requires not healing, but heresy.